Hey, everybody. Today on the AgentXcel podcast, we have our guest, Morgan Peterson. What's up, Morgan?
Hey man, hey, and sorry I didn't get my bio and info to you. So
Dude, this is your time to shine. We'll go through that. But I remember meeting you. We met in a mastermind in Tempe. And I
yep.
remember you were talking about some stuff with like your team culture. And I could really tell you were passionate about that as you were speaking about it. And so that's why that resonated with me in that room. And I was like, I'm going to talk to him more about that. And then it was probably like a few weeks later, we were in Vegas, another mastermind. That's finally when we shook hands, introduced ourselves to each other. Figured I'd have you jump on the podcast because you seem like a cool guy. That team culture sounded like something that was super important to you. Wanted to learn a little bit more about it. And so, yeah, man. So tell us your backstory. So like, why did you get into real estate? When? How's everything progressed over the years?
Oh man, so that's a long story of why, I guess. I guess the biggest why is it only takes 2 weeks to get your real estate license in Idaho.
Right.
So I figured that was two weeks of school that I could do that I guess my parents would be somewhat impressed with. So I went to got my 2 week degree, but I've been in real estate for 17 years.
Okay.
So I've been doing it, which is it seems like forever. It's the only thing I've really ever known besides I was in like any other teenager. I was in the restaurant business as far as bussing tables. I was a dishwasher at one point, and anyway, I got into telemarketing, and then that went south, and so then I went into real estate. And so then into real estate, I was flipping homes there for like the first probably 10 years of it. And then and maybe it wasn't that as long, but I was flipping homes and then the market crashed and then everything was a wholesale deal at that
Okay.
point. And so that kind of dried up and so I decided I wanted to grow my business and just like everybody else, real estate is super, super, super hard. And I found that out. But I felt like there was enough good of it that I wanted to continue to grow it. And I wanted a place that I wanted to enjoy going to work on Mondays. And I still remember that from previous jobs from a lifetime ago of just hating to go to work. So as you're growing, you add a person and then you add another person and then you add another person. And then pretty soon you have this tiger by the tail and you can't let it go because you don't know, what's happening, right? So, but that being said, so our culture is I'm huge on because for one, everybody has a choice, especially in real estate. There's so many choices, and I want to be the team of choice. And I feel like with EXP, I mean, I feel like I'm at the brokerage of choice. And so I love having a culture because I want my team to want to come to work on Mondays and I only wanted to bring people in who I really enjoyed being around. And that being said, I mean, I got my family at home that I see from 6 to bedtime, and then I wake up in the morning, do my thing, say bye to them, and then I'm with my work family. And so it was very important. One that it was people who um, that I would love and care about that I worked with. And then the second thing is I wanted to make sure that those type of people were loyal, that loved and would care about me. So anyway, that's kind of I guess the reason behind it all. And then it just morphs into this huge thing of it even becomes more than that. And it's people who I really um I worry about. I lay awake and I just really worry about the success of them, or I worry about their family issues, or I worry about, am I doing enough for them to be successful? Am I doing my part? Because I believe that when somebody comes on my team, so Chris, if you're going to come on my team, your wife and kids are expecting that you're going to work every day for a company that's going to make their lives better. And if I'm not doing my part, then I feel like I'm lying to these you know what I mean, to these families. And I do not want to do that. Now, there's this middle guy, and that's you. And so it's like that's my other thing that, probably gives me the most stress is like, how am I gonna get, this member on my team? How am I gonna get Chris to do his very best so that his family can be blessed with, his success? Anyway, does that kind of make sense a little bit? So that's the way I think. My partner Jason, he's incredible, and I when we teamed up, we're completely opposite, and and I just shared that vision with him, and he was like, "Nah, this is kind of too good to be true." And I was like, "Well, it's just what I think," and he has that same standard, and anyway, that's
How,
kind of.
how long did you sell real estate on your own until you actually started getting team members, or until you partnered up with your partner?
Good question. I think it was about 9 years. So I got my license when I was 21, and then it was right around when I was 30. So it
Okay.
was like 8 or 9 years. And what happened is I needed a change because I wasn't selling anything. Well, a crazy thing is during that time I was flipping homes. I was selling a whopping 7 to 11 homes a year, which up here isn't very much. And so I had, these things happen to me. And one day, and I was kind of just going paycheck to paycheck. And I hit my 20s like pretty hard. I was a pretty rough, like I was a 28-year-old that acted like I was 19. So that being said, and one day I came and I had 3 deals pending, and I was really looking forward to these 3 checks. And within, like, it was like a half an hour, and there's 3 separate, they all just fell apart. So there was a lot of things that, spiritual things like that, that I was just like, okay, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to be, and these are the things I'm going to do, so I'm never in this situation again. So I tell you that because I was telling a member on my team, I didn't have the knowledge. I wasn't the smartest person in the room, but I thought what I can do and what I am control of is my work ethic. So I'll just outwork everybody. And hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So anyway, I just picked up the phone and I called from 8 in the morning till 8 at night, and I just didn't stop. And so how I grew into a team, the long answer to your short question was I started having so many clients that I was letting down because I got so busy and I had no systems. So then I hired an assistant, and then you're working, and I kept working, and then I needed a buyer's agent. And so I hired a buyer's agent. And anyway, so it kind of snowballs just on top. And then so now we have a team of there's 20 of us. So we have 3 admin, um, we have 8 full-time agents, and then yeah. So the rest is history. 7
What
part-time agents,
what
whatever.
made you go from, like, what shifted when you said you had went for so many years, just selling a few homes a year, let's say? What shifted where you just went into that, like, another gear where you said you just started calling and getting deals and building a team? Like,
So
was it age? Was it something happened in your life? Like, what I always am interested on, somebody who's doing that many deals for so many years and then they just kick it into high gear. Like, what transitioned?
So there was a lot of little things, you know what I mean? Like I look back and there was like a lot of defining moments, but a lot of it is when those deals fell apart. Um, it was the lowest I've ever been, the most humblest I've ever been. Health wise, I mean, I was huge. You know what I mean? I was like 287 pounds, and so I it just at that time I knew that I was like, now the next call is I have to call my wife and say we have no money. I have no deals in sight, like we are screwed. So so that was the big thing, and I knew that just right then I needed to change.
Okay.
And I knew that my wife I kind of stretched her and strained her, you know what I mean, by doing things maybe I shouldn't be doing. And I just decided like enough was enough. And I wanted to give her and my kids the life that I felt like they deserve. And I wanted to start acting like the person, or start being the person who I was acting like. You know what I mean? I like everybody wants to be the dude real estate agent, or everybody wants to be the man, and I acted like I was the man, but I wasn't doing those things. And so that's just, and it's weird because it just clicked. Like it was just one of those rock bottom moments that I had, that I was like, man, I am changing.
So
So
right now with your real estate company, are you running, like, are you still doing production? Are you running your team more like a little brokerage?
good question. So the way that we run it, so my father was an entrepreneur and he sold some businesses and things like that. And then he was buying properties, and he bought one property and then he would develop it. So it was like, I want to say 4 years ago. So when Jason came in, he had some things with his team, and Jason's like a legendary real estate agent. And so he had some things happen, and I knew he wasn't happy, and I knew he was gonna like go start his own. Or so I said, hey, you just come talk to me. So when he comes and talks to me, um, I say, hey, this is what's happening. Like I'm hitting the threshold of 100 deals, and I want to go higher. But my father has all this ground, and at the time, I think he was like maybe 63. And I said, I don't know how much longer he's going to have the energy to do these projects, but I want to do these projects, and then we'll develop them, and then we'll run them back through the company,
Got it.
right? So my job, Jason does like the day to day. He was doing listings, and now we have two listing agents, and so now he is more of a trainer, mentor, accountability, and I kind of do the lead, train, motivate. So I recruit and do things like that. But full time, so since then, 2 years ago, my father passes away. Now I'm in charge of his estate and I'm doing all this. So I focus a lot on that. And so it's like 50-50. So we run a team the old, maybe the old fashioned way, where we have buyer's agents and listing agents.
Okay.
So does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
totally.
hopefully I feel like it, I mean that's a long-winded answer, but I feel like it gives you a little bit more perspective of how we do it. So I'm not in production. I haven't gone on an appointment in 4 years.
So what does that look like when I'm sure people refer you business buyers and sellers. Do you just straight off pass that off to someone on your team for maybe a higher split, or is that something where it's just what's the deal on that?
So we do we just do the 50-50 split for buyers agents, and then we do a 25 split for listing agents, and then we give buyers agents referral fees for if they bring in listings.
Okay.
Because your buyers agents are just freaking dogs, right? Like they go through a lot, that and I know that I've been one. And so I was my own buyer's agent, and so we really try to treat them well. And then we also, so if you call me and you're like, hey, I want to buy a house, I put them on, I would say, my leading buyer's agents, whoever is putting in the work, who's putting in the effort, and who's there. I hand deliver them. And what I would tell you is, I'd say, Chris, I just want to give you an understanding of how our team works. I'm going to put you in touch with so and so. She is, or he is, amazing, and they can do the job way better than I can. And that's why I hired them. And that's why I brought them onto my team. Or let me put you in touch with, Jason, or let me put you in touch with our listing agent, and we are going to take care of you. I've never had a hiccup. Sometimes people on our team are like, oh, they're doing listings and they're like, can I just take this buyer? I just don't feel, and I'm like, no, because if I can give out all of mine and no, people are fine, like you can do the same. And it's just how you explain it to people.
Such a limiting belief, I think, by so many realtors, right? Is that you can't successfully hand off a client to somebody else that's super skilled on your team. Just talking with a lot of agents, I always hear that kind of limiting belief of like, oh, well, these are my friends and family, they're going to want to work with me. And I'm always challenging them on, I mean, we're getting all the friends and family referrals too. And I mean, I think they appreciate and love when you say like, hey, I have this person for you. Um, just sitting on I just remember sitting on a call yesterday and I'm, explaining to the team to one of my really good friends. And I'm like, hey, this person's going to do this person's going to do that. And I actually think that they feel like you're more running the town. When you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like when you're like, I think realtors can come from a limiting belief of how do I pass this off and are they going to trust the process? And I'm like, I actually think they trust the process more when you explain that you have a company that's going to be taking care of them from several different angles and not just you having to be available at all times of the day.
So what's funny about me that I have found that where I'm different is I'm not a control freak. I'm
Okay.
not an ego driven person. Like from the outside looking in, people may think I am but if you come to one of our team meetings or our morning huddles, I'm the one that's made fun of the very most. I'm the one that has the most jokes, and I roll with it. Like I don't care. And I don't before I'd get combative and I'm like, oh man, Chris hit me with a zinger and now I'm gonna take him out, but now I just like I don't care because I'm comfortable with myself. But um where I don't have that, like I can admit Jason, way better real estate agent than I am. My buyer's agent, way better real estate agent than I am. And so I'm doing these things to help my friends and family. And that's one of the reasons why I brought them on is because I want it to be a better experience for you. And I want it to be a better deal.
When
And
you
so
when you say no, you don't have that ego of the team. Has that always been that way, or have you evolved into that?
Um, I think just going through humble things. Like, I mean, there was a time in I've always been the funny guy, and then there was a time in my life where I was a funny fat guy, and then, I mean, you just kind of learn to laugh at yourself, and when you were, I guess, more critical on yourself, like, I don't care what you think. I don't like you don't write my paychecks, you don't make my decisions. You know what I mean? And I think actually because of that it draws people to me. So like our team, like we'll have new agents and we'll be, talking and somebody will end up saying something about something and that new agent will be like, is that guy supposed to be your boss? And everybody like it's really funny. Like we've had people come in and because I mean I don't there's different aspects, but up here, like maybe I don't look as clean cut and as professional as some of my, the people in our industry. And so we'll have a lender come in and then they'll look at Jason, who's definitely polished, and then they'll be like, who's this Morgan guy? And everybody just starts laughing, and I just sit in the middle of the room, and you know what I mean? And I don't know, it helps and it hurts. Like I don't love being the center of attention. I would rather have somebody else have that opportunity. And so I don't know.
What is so like when someone joins your team, what does that look like? I got a few team members and always interested in hearing what people's value proposition is to them, is it hey, leads, is it mentorship, is it we got a company that's behind you? What does that look like for you? Like if you were talking to me and saying, hey Chris, come join up with our team, what would your value proposition be?
So so number one, you're going to have recognition. We're not the biggest team in our area, but we have by far the best brand recognition. And so that helps. It helps because when you go meet with friend or family, or when you go to a listing appointment and you're like, hey, I'm Morgan Peterson with the Grider Peterson team, and you hand them like the folder with our logo, very rarely do they say, like, huh? Who are you? Like, doesn't happen. So that helps. Our culture is second to none. That's a huge thing. Like I don't care just about your numbers. and your production. I care about how you're feeling. How's your life? How's your relationships? How's your kids? And I care about that stuff. And then leads. Now, our lead situation is very different. And this is where we lose some people, and that's okay. So we don't buy leads. So we are very, or we organically ish, but we do a lot of client appreciation stuff. We do a lot of things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what I would say is, Chris, there's a difference between a shark and a goldfish. And I know that you have options and you're interviewing teams. What they're going to, a lot of these teams are going to do is they're going to be really lead heavy. And so they're going to be giving you leads once a week or whenever these leads come in. And I like to think of as a goldfish, they come in and sprinkle some food in your bowl and they keep you happy and they keep your temperature right. And they put like a little fake broken, pirate ship in the bottom of it, and they keep you comfortable. I'm going to teach you how to be a damn shark, and I'm going to teach you how to create your own business. And it's harder, and I promise you that. But if something happens to me, or if you want to leave, you're going to know how the ins and outs of this business is. And I'm going to teach you how to get your own leads, and I'm going to teach you how to, be a shark. And when you do that, Chris, you're going to create more money, and you're going to create a better, more financial freedom. The other thing that I can provide for you is when you're really good in this business, you're going to make a lot of money. This business will make you rich. However, it's what you do with that money, Chris, that's going to make you wealthy. And I am I try to build wealth myself. So I have 60 residential doors. I have 3 storage unit complexes, and I have 3 Airbnbs, 2 in a local like vacation area, and then 1 in Costa Rica. And what I want to do is I'm going to show you everything that I do. I'm going to show you how that is, because that's how you're going to create wealth and generational wealth for your family. And so I think when they hear that, that's like maybe our retirement program for them. You know what I mean? Like if you're in real estate, you need to be investing into real estate. If you were a stockbroker, I hope to hell that you would own some stocks. So that's kind of our value proposition to them and talk to them. And then we have some steps going on. So we'll talk about their goals. So like you asking me, like, what's that shift? Why do you change? Like I want to hear your story as well, but there's some pivot in your life, some defining moments, and I want to pull those out of them. What did you do well? What did you work hard on? Where did you succeed? Where have you failed? What did you learn from that? So I like to pull these things out of them to see what kind of person I have, right? And then say we go over goals, we talk about that, and then they're like, "Man, can I join?" And I'm like, "Yeah, there's one more thing we got to do. I have to have you have a lunch with our team." And this is the final interview where you're going to interview them to make sure that you want to, go work with these assholes, and they're going to interview you. And they're usually freaked out. And then they go and they meet the team, and either they connect and they do really, really well, or they're like, nah, these guys are maybe a little like too rowdy, or maybe they're, and so and then the team comes to me and they say, "Hey, I really like Chris. Like I feel like he is awesome." I'm like, "Well, okay, that's great." Or they'll be like, "Hey, I'm kind of concerned." You know what I mean? Like he hasn't really worked. He doesn't really, it doesn't seem like he really understands. And so it also gives me a perspective of that as well.
That's a cool process, man. Like just hearing you say it is really, it's structured, I think sometimes, I talk to a lot of people doing these podcasts and it's just kind of hey, anybody can come join our crew. I like how you sit there and you're almost interviewing them. I think everybody just like, oh, just another member on my team, almost if like there's paychecks for how many people are on the team.
Right.
But I like how you're like screening people and making sure it's the right thing. I also love how you're doing it's kind of like a little bit my style that I do when I'm talking to agents about EXP is that whole you don't want to be dependent on people for leads. Like, we need to
Right.
teach you to be independent. When you're dependent on lead sources, when they go away, when that person goes away, if you go to another company, you have no idea how to really build your book of business. You're
Right.
so dependent that, I mean, what are you really building that's an asset? I also love I think people and real estate need to hear it more, but like you said, building wealth, like investing, figuring out like, hey, this isn't a game that you might not want to play this game forever. There
Right.
might be a day when you wake up at like 62 and you're like, I wish I would have did some stuff with my money
Yeah.
that gave me residual income or passive income. And you don't have to just keep sitting on this treadmill every single day trying to always sell 50 to 100 homes every single year. What sparked that in you where you wanted to get like, was there a certain period of time that you realized you needed to have assets like that? Or
So yeah. So for first and foremost, there's not too many realtor retirement parties. I mean, you sell until you die. And I don't know about you, but I'm gonna level with you. Like, I hate it. Like, I hate me trying to sell you a house and solely based on your emotions and what you're feeling and what's going on in your life makes it whether or not you're going to buy that, which then, and it doesn't matter my service. And then it just like people can be bought, as much as I try to build and nurture that relationship. If you can get a better deal, or if, like you're most likely going to take it. You know what I mean? So I just realized that um, I needed to have something that was I could depend on. And then I also liked because there was times, and you see it with your agents, you felt it, I feel it, that you're like, I cannot go on every single day and generate this kind of money forever. Like, it's just at one point, or if I go on vacation, you leave for a week and then your business stops and you have that gap of checks. And so I love to travel, so I'll leave 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time. So that gap was huge, and so I thought I got to have something that's going to help me there. And one story, so my dad had a bunch of residential properties, and my wife um was pregnant with our first child, and so she was. My dad invited her to, like, my sister was managing and she was moving, and so then my dad's like, let's have Lacey do it. So anyway, so my wife's managing these, and she knows me like everybody else, and so she's like, hey, I need you to go to the Dropbox and I need to get the checks, the cash, and these money orders that are going to be in there, the rent. And I was up doing something, and I was like, okay. And she's like, hey, there's going to be a lot of it, so don't drop any of it. And I was like, my hell, okay, fine. Like, I get it. So I open and I stick my hand in there and I pull out, like, I was like, I was almost felt like I was like robbing something. And I'm like shoving it into this deal. And I probably should have like had it nice and squared. And I was like, oh my hell. Like, my dad doesn't do any work on these. Like, he was the least handy guy I knew. He didn't manage them. He didn't walk through them. He didn't feel like any of it. So I went home and my wife, I was like, Lacey, what? Like, he doesn't do any of this. Like, how much does he make it? And she's like, I don't know. He grosses like probably 30, 35 grand a month. And I was like, I I got to get in on this. And so I went and told him, and he's like, well, yeah, I haven't figured out why you've never wanted to. And there's this speculation that nobody wants to deal with tenants. Well, you have somebody else manage them. So then I started picking up units and buying like small residential homes and like for cheap, like back in the day. And I just was holding on to all of them. And I also knew that they were going up in value. And so when I would flip a home and I would look at 123 Main Street, I'd see the history of it and I would be like, man, I'm buying it for 60. 5 years ago it was, 40. 10 years ago it was 20. And I thought it's just going to keep going up. And so That was my thought process. Like now it's like, well, no kidding, you know what I mean? But back then I didn't know. So I just kept going, and then it was funny because like managing, yeah, managing sucks. I watched my wife manage it, and she'd get off the phone and just be super pissed and be like, talk to some crazy tenant, and I would just kind of like in the back of my head, like, holy shit, that sucks. But then in the front, I'm like, oh, you're doing an amazing job. It's okay. And then after a while, we turned it over to a property management company because it got to the point where she was like, do not get any more. I don't want any more. And I was like, well, that's the only way I'm going to stop working. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that helps. But man, that is by far the best investment. And I don't know a lot about stocks. Um, but I do know that when stocks go down or stocks whatever, like you don't get nothing except for a piece of paper or a screen. And my real estate, if I want to, if I'm pissed, I can go throw a rock through the window. I could, you know what I mean? Like
We
I can go kick it, like whatever. And that's a huge thing for me. And
we
so,
we use the same terms, man. So that's how I explain it to anybody who asks me why I buy real estate and not other things. And I'm like, I'm not really that smart. So I found if you buy those properties, you get money every single month. And I've always looked at it that way, like the stock market. I'm like, I don't know how to look in the mirror and say like I'm having someone else manage my money that I don't understand, that's on paper. And
yeah,
if I retire during the decade where the economy's down, then I just have to deal with that. I'm kind of the same way. Like I want to have a hard asset, something that I can like physically drive by. And if I'm gonna be mad at something, at least I'm like, that's physically what it is. And
yeah,
it's cool because if I'm mad at it, I'm like, I can still live in it. So that feels more comfortable.
yep.
So I think
And one of it too is like, say the world gets real shitty, shittier, and I can move friends in one of my houses. I can move a sister into one of my houses, and that was something that I really liked as well. You know what I mean? Like just that it's the safety blanket of all safety blankets.
man, that's
And
so cool that you say that.
you can the other thing is my help. You use other people's money to do it. Like I can't go buy $400,000 of stock by using, you know, 200 or 360,000 of the bank's money. You know what I mean? Or 300,000, like whatever it is. What like you can't do that. But then you're making appreciation on that whole amount, like, and then you have other people paying that. Like, I don't understand why more agents don't do it. Like, as far as continuing ed, like that should be for somebody to be a real estate agent. Like once every 5 years, they should have to buy a property,
I
at
think
least a home for themselves.
I think why they don't is what I'm noticing is other avenues are easier to invest in because it's just you can put $200, $300, $1,000. I think the
Yeah,
difference between real estate investing is you actually have to save. You have to be, disciplined enough to save a chunk of coin for your down payment, right?
right,
Then you have to, once you have that, then you have to have the skill of finding like what market you're going to buy in.
right.
Then you have to, find a realtor to run the numbers. So, I always look and I say, thankfully, you and I, we wanted to make that happen for us, so we did it. But I do understand why people just put like $60 a week in whatever retirement account because it's just so simple. It's just a wire transfer over there, automatically done. Where you and I are having to actually like go make money more than what we actually live on, and then it's save it here and be disciplined to keep that in that account, not buy something shiny with it or cool, and then go find
Exactly.
that, then go find the house, and then run the numbers, and then after we buy it, then find the property manager for it. So I could see where it's not the easiest. I can see now why more and more people are doing like those syndications where they kind of feel like they're doing that, just parking like $100, $200 in
Right.
some type of syndication. That's not really my style because I just don't feel like I'm in control of that syndication. It feels like
Right.
kind of, you own maybe a little bit of real estate, but still feels like it's a little bit more on paper to me than an actual like hard asset that I make all the decisions on.
Yeah.
But that's why I think more people don't do it. But
I agree. And so everybody's human. And what's crazy is real estate agents are salespeople, and at the end of the day, we're a little nuts, right? And so that same thing, that instant gratification of I'd rather buy a Tesla or a car or whatever and look whatever it is than just be patient. And so most people are like that, but agents just for whatever reason, most agents are just paycheck to paycheck. And so it does suck. And I mean, it was what's crazy is I was just telling one of our agents because I bring him on, he doesn't know me from 10 years ago, you know? And so when I was 19 to 29, I drove the same pickup, you know, and I lived as low as I could because I was just throwing money into stuff. And people would say, man, why, how come you don't buy a new truck? How come you don't do this? And I'm like, man, I don't. I can buy a new one, and the reason why I can buy a new one is because I don't buy it. And so I didn't. And so then all of a sudden the market takes off, and then I'm able to leverage and roll into more. And then all of a sudden now I'm like in a whole different realm. Does that make sense? And
It
so that
does.
same thing, like there's no discipline. There's I mean, it sucks. People don't plan to fail; they just fail to plan.
Yeah, I remember why I was so hardcore on saving and not, buying really like the coolest of stuff was I remember being in Arizona and during the REO days, like the foreclosure days, there were these
Yeah,
agents that was like cashed in for like 2 years and they cashed in for 2, 3 years. And then now most of them aren't even in the business. And I don't think it's because they were tired off of the cash that they made. I think it's because they just went and lived these baller lives.
yeah,
And so I saw that and I wasn't doing anything near the level I'm doing now during that era. So I was thankful that when I started making like really good coin, I could really remember that. And I was thinking like, hey, markets always shift, like I was first always thinking from just I want to I want to have an insurance policy on myself and my industry that
yeah.
if I might go through 2 or 3 years where it's a super solid run, but we never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I just want to be able to wake up and know that like, I'm good for the next 3 or 4 years if we go through a bad run. Not saying that we're not going to crush it while we go through it. There's just something about like, and I'm sure you feel this too, like it's so peaceful when you come into your business every day and you know that you have funds coming in other ways.
For
It just,
sure.
I mean, you feel like so much more secure. You still might be throwing some curveballs in your business, but you just feel like you have this insurance policy on yourself. And you're like, hey, if as much money doesn't come in this month, or if we've got to use money to build or whatever, like I'm good over here. Like my family's not going to skip a beat. The business
Right.
might do things different, but like the family life's not going to. And that's what I'm trying to accomplish with like my wife and I is I don't want it. I look at them like two separate things. Like I don't want anything on our family side to ever miss a beat because of what I'm doing over here in my
Yeah.
office, right? Like I want to make sure I come home and I'm like, hey, we're living the same life we've always lived. And then whatever is going on here is a total separate entity. And I don't want to commingle those with bank accounts or, thought processes or mindsets. Like I just want to have a total switch or a total opposites.
So I have a saying that no, I'm not going to let your problems become my problems.
Okay.
And so with like our team, I say the same thing. And I tell them like if you have a bad client, I say, Chris, don't let their problems become your problems.
That's
It's
cool.
not your fault that they got to move. It's not your fault that they got divorced. It's not your fault. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just stay in your lane. But where I'm going with that is it's the same thing I say with my family and my business. I'm not going to let my business problems be my family's problems. I mean, hell, my kids are 4 to 13. Like it's not their problem and not their fault for what's going on over here. And so same thing with my wife. Like, and so at first it's hard when you're building to get to that point because everybody sacrifices. But the problems they don't need to see, but maybe they can understand the sacrifice. You know what I mean? But hopefully that helps with kind of like what you're saying.
Yeah, one thing I want to hit on is you were talking about like client appreciation, like parties and stuff. What does that look like? I know we're going on a different gear, but I'm really interested in that because I want to start adding that to my business next year. I've never
Okay.
really did parties per se or even events, and we're heavy referral based. So you think after doing this for 17 years, we'd have picked that up. Maybe my
So
introvert nature never really wanted to pull that off, but my wife runs, half of the business, and she's totally the party planner and that kind of a person. So we're kind of looking into next year and saying like, hey, what do we want to do for events? What does that look like for you?
Let me grab 1 second. All right, so we do 2 main events a year, and then we do like 2 smaller events inside of that.
Okay.
So first of the year, so that would be January to February. We don't do a lot. We do a lot more planning. Around, spring, we'll try to do something fun. Summertime. So last spring, I guess it was like May. So our springs are long. I mean, we got a lot of snow. It's cold as hell. And so we do like a zoo day. And that was really awesome. And it's a lot of fun. And we were very purposeful on making those calls. And then we have like a little Pioneer League baseball team that's around here with a really nice stadium, and we do, and they're called the Chuckers, little bird. So we do a Chuckers night, and so I mean that's another one we do, and we try to do that around the 4th of July. And I'll tell you why in a second. And then we go through, and then our falls are an amazing time. Leaves are changing, beautiful time. So we do a straw maze. And so the straw maze, that's also a very fun time.
You just did that, didn't
And
you?
yep, we
Yeah.
just had a straw maze. We had about,
I saw
so
that on your
last year
Instagram.
we had about 1,300 people. And this year we were about, I think adults wise, we're 300 and something, but then kids, I mean, there was a ton of kids there. And that's a fun one. And so we do these little things, and then in December we have a food drive we do around Christmas.
Okay.
And there was a little kid that around here that really wanted to do one, and so we have a really great frontage office, and so we have him come do that. And so those are the 4 things we push on, and then we'll put little ones in between. So what I went and grabbed is we have, this is like an older one, but we have these shirts. So this is from a high school. This is their logo.
Okay.
It's the town Shelley, and then we put our logos on the back. So around here, we don't have like a lot of boosters that dump a bunch of money, and so we have a lot of school swag. So we'll do these high schools, and we'll go and we'll dump 200 shirts. Like there's Thunder Ridge. We'll put the Titans on the front, put our logo on the back. Rigby High School, that's the town I live in. I do multiple because they're a really good football team, and we'll do our logo on the back. So we'll be more creative and just do different sayings on the front. But what's crazy is everybody loves these. And so we've started counting these as client appreciation events
Okay.
because it's not an event that we're putting on, but we're donating and we're giving back.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about it is people will wear these shirts. We get the nicer shirts, and they're like $9, $8, $9 a shirt. We give them out. So 200 shirts, $2,000, but they wear them, Chris, all the time.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
cool.
all around town, we see all these different shirts. And if you follow us, you'll see that we're always posting. And then we'll walk up and be like, "Hey, Chris, nice shirt, man." And he'll be like, thanks. And we'll be like, "Hey, here's $20. Here's a $20 gift card. Here's, cool hat. Here's $20." And people are like, "What?" And I'm like, "Hey, that's where I work. That's my business. Thanks for supporting." And they're like, "Dude, this is the nicest shirt," and everybody loves it. You know what I mean? And so they're the next level, or they're the Bella Canvas ones. It's insane. Like it's literally insane. So like the straw maze, we did these glow in the dark shirts, black with glow in the dark on it. Um, we do it around 4th of July, and we made these kick-ass just blue. It has like the Superman logo, has our logo on the back, and then or big on the back, and then the little one on the front. and we gave those out, and we had people lining up in front of our office. And so I tell you that because that's what separates us, and people in other markets should do it because other agents are so scared to spend money. And how I got to do that is do you do pop buys on your team?
We have before. It's not consistent. I know last year my wife went around and made some runs to people. But no, it's not like a consistent thing we do every year.
So when I was broke and I was trying to figure out how to make some money, I put a whopping $500 a month Zillow ad,
Okay.
right? So I was buying leads $500 a month, and I was getting like a lead every 3 months. Like I was like so buried in there that you didn't know I existed. So I thought, man, what if I could do something for somebody? So $500 a month, if I could give out $20 gifts, that is 25 gifts. I could do one pop by a month or one pop by a day a month, and just hand out things.
Yeah.
So so we built these. So we quit Zillow, and we that's one thing we started doing. So we do 2 shirts and a hat, and it's right around $27.
Okay.
So I'll take you a stack of shirts and a hat, and I just say, hey, Chris, hey, man, I really appreciate you. And I really appreciate all the support you give, me and my family. And I just am really blessed to have you as a friend. And I just wanted to give you this to say thanks. And I hope you like these shirts. I hope your wife likes them. Blows their mind.
Yeah.
And then they want to reciprocate that back. And it's a $25 gift. Like we have people calling us now left and right, like, man, you do so much for this community. I can't believe how many shirts everybody's wearing. And dude, it's a walking billboard. Like
It re-
everybody's wearing them.
it really is. I mean, now just you even saying that, I think of like when I go to the Phoenix Suns games, our basketball team, and they're shooting out shirts, and it basically says like our biggest grocery store on the back. It's the Suns logo on the front, it's the grocery store on the back, and these people are trying to like murder each other to get these things in the crowd when they shoot them out.
Right.
And I'm like, Fry's grocery store is probably like, what better advertisement can we have than a person walking around with our grocery store on there?
Right.
And the fact that these 12 drunk people just fought in the crowd to try to get that shirt. I'm like, who's ever trying to grab a piece of marketing that aggressively? So I can see how that would totally make sense. Even more, like, I shouldn't say even more in like a smaller community. I would think just probably anywhere.
Yeah, I think it's huge. If you did it in your high school, then everybody would want one. And your
Yeah.
schools are going to be about the same size of our big schools, but we have some really small schools. And when we go in with 100 shirts, the whole student body's wearing them. And
Yeah.
who does these kids' laundry? Mom.
Right.
She sees them. And hey, make sure you grab my Bulldog shirt. Make sure you grab my Trojan shirt, my Bobcat shirt. And the parents love it, and the parents wear them. Like when you go to your kids' school things or things like that, you want to be, you know, supporting and wearing their school colors. If they don't have it, so then now they're wearing our stuff, and it's just that brand recognition. We
Yeah.
put zero call to action on it, no website, no number. It's just our logo.
Yeah.
And dude, it's like you would have to see it to believe it. Like I bet if you come and someday when you come visit, I bet 2 days you'd like just going out and about, you'll see a shirt or two.
That's
And
awesome.
it's just over that, just like anything else, it's just that consistency of giving them out.
What other type of while we're wrapping up here, what other type of marketing, are you doing outside of those client events like for your sphere? Because it sounds like that's heavy of like the community, your repeat clients, past clients. What other type of marketing are you doing? Do you do any like print, emails, any of that stuff, or are you just really heavy on just giving back to the community?
So Jace, so heavy on giving back to the community, really tapping into Sphere and our clients. And then we just make sure we brand the shit out of everything. And we have, really recognizable brand, and so it works. But Jason's really good at the market stats.
Got it.
And so we'll send out those monthly emails to our whole database.
Okay.
And then we just check in. But I think if you're just a friend to people and people know that you're a friend and you want to support and you want to like, so that old Keller Williams Allied Resources, I don't know if it's a KW thing, that's just where I heard it from. So, but I focus on them too.
Yeah.
You know, my property manager, I treat him as if he was one of my top lead agents, and he loves me for it. And he refers us business, you know, like my dentist, I do the same thing. And so I just try to give. And when the more you give and you see that people give so much, then people want to give back. People want to help.
Dude, that's been my style for 17 years. It wasn't until probably 3 years ago that I picked up any type of like online business or started to build, more. It was always that. It was like sending box of brownies to people, I'd mail them Starbucks gift cards. It
Yeah.
was always just, I've always looked at them like, people will spend thousands and thousands of dollars monthly to market to people that don't trust them, don't like them, don't even want to see it.
Yeah.
And then they won't go turn around and just spend, $500 to $1,000 a month into the people that actually like them, trust them, want to hook them up, love them. And so I've always just looked at it like, hey, instead of blitzing the world that doesn't even know me, like, why would I just hook up the people in my own crew that like actually know who Bowers is and likes me and wants to see me succeed? And I think, that's something where I'm leaning in more of that anymore is I think people really do genuinely want the people around them to succeed. And so
Right.
like I get a lot of referrals from my past clients and I thank them and I'm like, hey, thank you so much. And they're like, no, 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 thank you. And I've had a
Yeah.
few people over the last few weeks, a little older people, but I've met them, I've seen them out and about and they're like, hey man, I just want to let you know I'm really proud of you. And
Yeah.
and I'm like almost like I'm like their 16-year-old kid. And they're like, hey, we've seen you for 17 years do this. And it's so cool to see what you've grown. And we're just really proud of you. Went to a party the other day with a lender and several clients said that. And I left there and I told my wife, I just kind of had chills when I got in the car and I was like, that's so cool, that these people are just, they're generally proud of somebody who went out and tried something and for 17 years has just failed forward and trying to do good for people and, just keeps going. And I think people really do want to hook you up. But I also think you and I have these styles where it's, maybe we're probably a little bit more low key, not as salesy. And I think that goes far too, that people don't want to be sold. They just want to, they want to buy and sell real estate and they want to use someone that they trust. And I don't know if you have to show up in like the suit and tie and the like super duper nice sports car and things like that. It's just, let's just sell your house and have fun.
So the one thing that you said that I love, and that's why we got rid of Zillow, is because you've had a Zillow lead. They don't know you. They don't like you. You're just the guy, you know what I mean, to get them into that house. But your friends and family do know you. They do love you. So when you have a transaction with these two types of people and something goes wrong out of your control,
Yeah.
what does the Zillow guy do?
Yeah.
Like, you're the worst person in the world. What's wrong with you? You're an idiot. You better pay. And your friends and family are like, they trust you. They love you. They show you so much grace. And they're like, man, I know that's not your fault. That's okay. Like, it's all right. And I feel like you're not hustling this guy trying to, like, man, how can I finesse this so he doesn't just freaking crucify me on the internet? And then your friends and family, I'm like, Chris, this is what happened. Water, water heater flooded like the basement. This is what we can do. It's entirely up to, and you're like, oh man, that sucks. But you know what I mean? And so that's why I push my team. You want to be a Zillow based team with people who do not care and don't care if you fail? Or do you want to really push over here with these people who love you and
Yeah.
want to see you succeed?
Did you come from, did you come from Keller Williams? Is that where you were before? Or?
Yeah, so we were like a independent, and then that broker converted whatever you'd say to KW, and then they combined with the Remax. And then I was there for a while, grateful for my time there, but it was just there were some things happened that I just needed to change. And I felt like EXP was how Keller Williams used to be.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so that's when for us anyways, so that's when we launched over.
Yeah. I'm always interested to hear on why people left their brokerage and went to EXP. So it was just, it was just timing or.
Timing was a big one. but then there was just, I mean, it was just the micromanaging. You know what I mean? Like there was an office. I wanted to have an office in there. They told me I couldn't like do certain things to my office, like make a doorway in between the three offices so I wouldn't have to walk clear around. And they're like, oh, you can't do that. But the owner of the building is also, you know, the broker and also one of the lead agents on one of the big teams. And so he was doing it. And so I just got pissed and I got driving down the road and there was this like on our busiest street, there was this shitty building and I was like, man, I'll just go rent that. They can't want that much. And I call and they're like, yeah, we want like $4,500 a month rent. But I mean, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that thing looks like, and they're like, it's not a big deal because they're going to probably lose it anyway. And so then I call the agent back and I'm like, hey, let's just do a short sell. Let me buy that crap from you. And so it's like it's crazy. And so when I bought it, then over there they throw a stink like, oh wait, no, you can't do that, and you've got to pass this, and pay us this, and your sign's got to look like this. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I thought you guys want me to succeed. Like it feels like you guys kind of want to pull the reins back on me. It's like, hey, Bowers, go kick some ass. Like I'm so proud of. Whoa, well, not that
Not
much.
that
You know what I
much.
mean?
Yeah.
Like,
You look like you might be starting your own thing there. Reel it back in.
yeah. And so we just were like, and so I knew of Kevin and Fred, and I knew Kevin through like KW days, and he switched, and I was like, hey, what's this EXP thing? And then he's like, oh, this is what it is, and I don't know. More like it didn't take me a lot of convincing on it, and so we jumped, and that's one thing we got to work on is build like our rev share. But I can't run rev share the same way that I do my business because it's a little more like I don't know, like for I just think people should love me and trust me and just do what I'm doing. And that's how my business works. But rev share and agents, like we're creatures of habit. And it's funny. They're like, oh, I can't, I would love to, but I just bought $500 worth of signs. And I'm like, oh my hell. Like that's what's holding you back, you know? And it's like always that sort of thing. Oh, I got this deal under contract and I don't know what happened if I switch. And well, nothing's going to happen if you switch brokerages. And they're like,
I,
well, and it
uh,
seems like agents have an excuse for everything, but we're working on that.
yeah.
That's what we've got to start working on.
I always joke with them when I hear those things, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, we switched over with 19 pending, and
Yeah.
it was a little bit of a pain, and so, but for my future, I decided to go through the pain, and my now self is super proud that I went through the pain. You're just trying to explain like there's actually pain in life when you're going to something good sometimes, and sometimes you got to overcome that whole process of like a better future. Sometimes you got to walk up this mountain, and then I'm like, never mind. like never mind. Like we're just different people. So Morgan, dude, thank you. This was
You got it,
cool.
man.
This is cool. I really liked having this conversation, and you really helped me a lot with doing some things differently in my company. And I just really liked hearing your story, buddy.
Hey, I appreciate it. And let's connect soon.
Cool, man. Appreciate your time.
All right. See you,
Bye.
man.
Bye, man.
Bye.